beautiful friends, my name is Katie, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a two-piece wrap skirt dress, which is basically a top that wraps around a bunch of times and also a wrap skirt that is nice and flowy. I like that this is a two-piece set because you can wear it all as one item and it looks like a dress that just ties cutely in the back, or you can wear the two pieces separately for a more versatile look. So let's get started. To start this project off, I'm going to use 2 yards of this yellow material that I bought at Joann's. I'm going to start my pattern making by outlining a crop top that I already own. It helps to use a piece of material that is closest to what you want to make when trying to outline this. So I'm going to start by outlining the kind of inside pattern and moving the sleeve away. And make sure whatever shirt that you're using as the outline has the same type of material that you're going to be working with. So in my case, my material has no stretch and either does this shirt, so it's a good shirt to use for pattern making. And I'm just gonna move all the material out of the way so I can get the general shape of things like the front of the shirt, and then I'm also going to flip it over and make the back of the shirt. Once you've got the general shape of your pattern cut out, I always like to half it to make sure that I've gotten things the same, such as the armholes and the neck hole. So this is just an easy way to make sure that your pattern is symmetrical. So next up on this, the front of my shirt is actually going to crisscross. It's not going to be a straight front. So I'm going to have to make 2 pieces that are more like giant triangles. And for anybody out there who wants to try this, I am not a professional, so a lot of this ends up being just kind of guess and check, which is also my favorite way to make things. So this is more like trial and error, where I'm just kind of going through like, well, this is how I think this will work. So I'm starting out by kind of making this a giant triangle, and I'm gonna end up cutting this out and then kind of piecing it onto myself to see, does this work? Does this look good? And then I'm going to take some scrap material. In this case, I think this is an old bed sheet that I've cut up, and I'm going to basically test out the pattern. A lot of times you'll see people use muslin to test out patterns, which is just kind of inexpensive material. I always like to use secondhand bed sheets because there's a lot of material on them and they're very, very inexpensive. Next up, I'm going to make the second part of the pattern, which is actually the back. Please note that the back and front of garments are not the same. The armholes are different, and also the neck hole tends to be a lot different, so that is why I always measure them out separately. So then I'm also going to use the bed sheet material and cut out the back, and then I'm going to pin the front and the back together to see how the fit looks on me. Once I have the front and the back done, I'm also going to try and measure out a sleeve. I've included these clips in here because they are a hot mess. I know how to make sleeves, and for some reason I decided to try and make them the worst way possible, where I was just measuring completely random elements of the sleeve. I was trying to use a piece of paper that was way too small for this project, and I included this because I wanted to show you guys my process, but I also wanted to show you this because it was bad. I'm not sure why I thought like, this is how we make sleeves today. I know that's not how we make sleeves. So after putting together this super wonky sleeve shape, I'm also gonna cut this out of the bed sheet and pin it on for sizing. So after trying on my test piece, I realized that the top was definitely not fitting correctly. I had too much material cutting across. So then I'm going to adjust this on my pattern to make it look a little bit better. And now the fun part, we are going to use the good material to cut these out. So I'm going to cut out both the pieces of the front out of my good material, and I like to fold over the material so that you make sure that you have mirror images on the right sides of the fabric. And then I'm looking through all of my thread to verify that I have a matching thread color, because I have so much thrifted thread. So being able to use actually thrifted thread versus having to buy new stuff, always a win in my book. And then I'm going to cut out the back piece in the good material as well. And next up is my total fail, which is again these sleeves. If you don't know how to make a sleeve pattern, please do not do what I am doing in this current one. Please look up how to make a sleeve. I have cut this incredibly poorly. This is not the way a human arm should be shaped. And I also made a mistake where I like tapered it in on accident. Now that I have all the pieces cut out, I'm going to start putting them back together. So because this is a top with sleeves, I'm going to sew the top shoulder pieces together first. After sewing the shoulders together, I'm then going to pin on the arm sleeves. After pinning the sleeves onto the dress and then sewing them down, I realized I had made a critical error. The sleeves actually do not fit. Specifically, they don't fit in the armpit area, and I didn't have enough material to cut out new sleeves, so I'm going to do a cheat, which you can't tell in the final product, but up close it definitely looks a little wonky, and I am going to actually add material under the armpit to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to use a straight stitch and just sew all the way down my new sleeve. Once that is done, I'm then going to cut off any of the extra material. Now with the addition of the panel, I'm going to sew the sleeves back on by using a straight stitch. If you're sewing something small like a sleeve, most sewing machines have an attachment you can take off to make sewing the sleeve on easier. And then I'm just going to go all the way around my sleeve, sewing that straight stitch. Now that I have all the pieces of the top assembled, I'm then going to do a rolled hem or double over the hem twice so that there's a nice crisp edge showing and that the material will not fray. Now for the giant tie in the front. I'm going to cut out a large strip that's approximately 4 inches wide, and then I'm going to sew it right sides together with a straight stitch, and then I'm going to take a safety pin and then turn it around so that the right sides are showing, but all of your raw edges are on the inside. After I have everything turned over, I'm also just going to iron it down to make it nice and crisp and flat. And then I'm going to sew a straight stitch across on the edge that's going to be attached to the front of the blouse. And then attach it to the front V part using just a normal straight stitch. So now for these sleeves. These sleeves were super long when I put them on, so I'm going to have to do something to make them shorter. I'm going to pin the sleeve at my wrist and then cut from there. And I'm going to make sure that I use the same piece repeated on the other side so that one sleeve is not shorter than the other. And then after the sleeve has been adjusted, I'm just going to use my pinking shears and cut along that seam so that the material will not fray. For the skirt portion, I'm going to do a simple wrap skirt. Wrap skirts are my absolute favorite because they look fantastic and they're really, really easy to make. So I'm just going to use my simple wrap skirt pattern, which is where you measure your waist and then you divide that by 3.15, and I'll link an in-depth tutorial on how to make a wrap skirt down below. So after cutting that pattern piece, I'm also going to cut a piece for the waistband. After I cut out the piece for my waistband, I realized that I did not move the camera and just filmed a 45-minute clip of absolutely nothing except my cutting board. So I'm going to really quickly explain to you what you do next. For your wrap skirt, you're going to sew the waistband on, and then you're going to turn over the hem twice so that the material does not fray. And then if you want to, you can sew a button on. I always use a safety pin because I'm lazy and don't want to sew buttons, and no one can ever tell that it's safety pinned. No one looks at your outfits that hard. So it is a great time saver, and that way you can also adjust it at any point if you eat a large meal. So that is all for the tutorial. I actually made this piece to wear at a wedding in November, which then I didn't end up wearing. So I am loving it for the spring season. This material I bought at Joann's, and it is actually still available. So if you want to make something with this material, you can still go out and buy it. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button down below because I make tons and tons of DIY projects and I love sharing them with you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!